Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on every Bloons game explained. Did you know that before BTD6 became a tower defense titan, the original Bloons was a free web game that racked up over 1 billion plays? That one simple flash game spawned a universe of puzzle games, tower defense games, shooters, and even card games. In today's video, we're going to go over every single Bloons game ever released. We're talking about the OG Flash classics, the forgotten spin-offs you've never heard of, and even games that got canceled along the way. Alright, but let's start at the very beginning. March 2007. This is Bloons, the genesis block of the entire franchise. It's a simple puzzle game. You're a monkey with a set number of darts, and you have to pop a target number of balloons on each level. You set your angle, you set your power, and you let it fly. The core idea, which Ninja Kiwi absolutely nailed, is that popping balloons is just kind of fun. This game went viral back in the day. We're talking over 1 billion plays, like I said, which for a Flash game back then was astronomical. Its success is the sole reason the tower defense series even exists in the first place. It also established the fundamental conflict of monkeys versus balloons and gave us our first special balloon types: the ice balloon that freezes nearby balloons, the bomb balloon that explodes, and the tack balloon that shoots out little tacks. They all started right here. Some of the other power-ups were wild too, like the Pac-Man balloon that let you literally control a little Pac-Man to eat other balloons. It's an absolute classic, preserved forever in the Ninja Kiwi archive. So, when your free little web game gets over 1 billion plays, what's the next logical step? You make more of it, obviously. Later that year, Bloons Tower Defense 1 released. It was a simple browser title with a winding track and a dream. You had a measly selection of 5 towers, including the Dart Tower, Tack Tower, Ice Tower, Bomb Tower, and the legendary Super Monkey. The goal was to survive 50 rounds with only 40 lives, which sounds easy until the black and white balloons show up to ruin your day. It established the core loop of popping for cash and buying upgrades, even if each tower only had 2 boring options. It lacked music and a save function, which is a pretty embarrassing oversight, but the addictive gameplay was enough to hook an entire generation of students in computer labs. This is More Bloons, the first official sequel to Bloons 2007, and when I say sequel, I mean it in the classic Flash game sense, which is the exact same game with 50 new levels. There's no new grand reinvention here, it's just more of what people loved, but harder. This was Ninja Kiwi responding directly to the overwhelming fan demand, proving that the formula wasn't just a one-hit wonder. It cemented the expansion pack model that would define the early puzzle series. The big new addition here was the lightsaber balloon. You pop it and your next dart becomes a lightsaber that can slice through a ton of balloons. And yes, level 2 is called Use the Force, just in case you didn't get the incredibly subtle reference. Levels like Minefield and Death Star were designed specifically for players who had mastered the first game and wanted a real challenge. It was a simple, effective way to keep the momentum going. Before the App Store, before Steam, this was how you monetized a hit Flash game. O Bloons was a downloadable application for Windows PCs released back in 2007. For $89.99, you got the first 2 games, Bloons and More Bloons, bundled into a single package that you could play offline. This is a super important historical fact. It shows Ninja Kiwi's earliest attempt to move beyond web ad revenue and get direct financial support from their fans. In an era before reliable mobile gaming, offering an offline version was a real selling point. It was a simple, straightforward product that laid the groundwork for the premium games and in-app purchase models that would define the series' future success. It's totally obsolete now thanks to the Ninja Kiwi archive, but it's a fascinating look at the early days of indie game monetization. Bloons Tower Defense 2 was more of a refinement than a revolution. Ninja Kiwi added the Boomerang Tower, which gave us the first taste of towers with unique flight paths. It also introduced the concept of difficulty levels, giving us easy, medium, and hard modes that are still the backbone of the series today. While some people called it a glorified expansion pack, the addition of new maps and balloon types proved that the developers were serious about building a franchise. It didn't change the world, but it gave us more ways to commit balloon genocide, and that's really what we all wanted back then. Speaking of sequels that actually change things though, here we have Even More Bloons, the second and final major expansion for the original game. This one actually started evolving the formula. It introduced the Helium Bloon, which was a huge deal. You'd pop the block holding it down and it would flow upwards, creating a new strategic layer for setting up chain reactions. They also added angled rubbered blocks, making some levels into pinball machines of bouncing darts. But the most important changes, honestly, were the quality of life updates. You could now throw darts rapidly without waiting for the last one to disappear. This completely changed the pacing of the game and allowed for puzzle solutions that weren't possible before. It was also the last big hoorah for the first generation of Bloons puzzle games, taking the original concept as far as it could reasonably go before a full-blown sequel was needed. But after designing 150 official levels, you start to run out of ideas. So what did Ninja Kiwi do? They outsourced the work to the fans for free. This brings us to the Bloons Player Packs, a series of 5 separate games, each containing 50 levels made by the community. Back in the day, Ninja Kiwi had a website called Bloons World with a level editor, and players submitted tens of thousands of their own unique custom maps. The developers would then handpick their favorites and bundle them into these official packs. This was an absolutely brilliant move. It generated a constant stream of new content that kept the community deeply engaged and cost them almost nothing in development time. And let me tell you, the community was ruthless. Many of these fan-made levels were absurdly difficult, way harder than anything in the official games. They were designed by people who had spent countless hours mastering the physics, and it showed. Of course, when you let fans make the levels, they're going to push the difficulty to its absolute breaking point. And that breaking point was called Bloons Insanity. This wasn't just another player pack, it was a curated collection of the 50 most unfair and borderline impossible levels the community had ever created. This game was marketed specifically for experts. The official description literally said it was not for the faint of heart. The difficulty was so far beyond the pale that Ninja Kiwi actually had to provide an official walkthrough for it. Every single level required pixel-perfect precision and a complete understanding of the game's physics. You couldn't just squeak by meeting the pop requirement. You often had to 100% the balloons, with shots that seemed physically impossible. Completing Bloons Insanity without a guide was the ultimate badge of honor for puzzle game fans back in the day. It was the final exam for the original Bloons formula, and almost everyone failed. After torturing their hardcore fanbase, Ninja Kiwi decided it was probably a good idea to cater to the opposite end of the spectrum. Meet Bloons Junior, the my first puzzle game version of Bloons. This was a sprint game with 50 brand new, much easier levels designed for kids and total beginners. Everything about this game was designed to be more forgiving. The darts you throw are physically larger and heavier, making them easier to aim and more likely to hit something. The aiming arrows move slower, so you're not fighting the controls just to line up a basic shot. It also came with a super clear tutorial that explained what every single special balloon did. It was the perfect entry point for anyone who found the main series too frustrating. It wasn't just a rehash of old levels with easier goals either. It was 50 unique puzzles built from the ground up to teach the core mechanics in a stress-free way. So, with the puzzle genre completely covered, it was time for Ninja Kiwi to start experimenting with some stranger ideas. Released in 2008, Hot Air Bloon was one of the very first spin-offs, and it had nothing to do with puzzle games. This was a simple, endless side-scroller, basically a clone of the old helicopter game. You control a monkey hanging from a blimp, and you hold the mouse button to go up and release to go down. The goal was to fly as far as you could, dodging trees while popping balloons for a high score. It was a massive departure, but it showed Ninja Kiwi wasn't afraid to slap the Bloons name on different games. It's also notable for being one of the very first times we see a monkey using a balloon as a vehicle. Interestingly, the red blimp you control looks suspiciously like an early prototype of the BFB that would officially debut a year later in BTD4. Also, this game sucks. Don't play it. Later that year, we saw Ninja Kiwi drop Bloons TD 3. We saw the debut of the Moab, a massive blimp that acted as the series' first real boss. If you weren't prepared for round 40, your game ended immediately, which was a harsh but necessary lesson in strategy. This installment also introduced the split upgrade path system, forcing you to choose between 2 different versions of a tower. It added the monkey beacon for support and the spikepult for crowd control, making the strategy much deeper than just spamming super monkeys. And the series officially shortened its name to Bloons TD, which just sounds more professional for a game about monkeys with darts. If you've ever felt the sheer panic of a Moab reaching the exit while you're penniless, you should probably subscribe to the channel. It's free, it's faster than Yellow Balloon, and it helps me buy more virtual monkey glue. Don't think too much about that. In April 2009, the franchise made its most important move yet. It went mobile with Bloons iOS. This was the official port of the original puzzle game for the iPhone and iPod Touch, and it was a huge deal. This wasn't just some cheap port either. It was adapted for touch controls where you drag your finger to set the power instead of relying on a timing-based meter. The game cost $3 and came with 150 levels. It also had a full offline level editor, something the Flash version never had. This was the first step in Ninja Kiwi's transition to becoming a mobile-first company, a strategy that would eventually make them millions. It's now delisted, a relic of the 32-bit era. Bloons TD4 was a massive technological leap that moved the series into the modern era. It introduced a rank-based progression system, meaning you actually had to earn your towers by playing the game. We got iconic additions like the Banana Farm, which turned the game into an economic simulator, and the Monkey Apprentice. The introduction of the 4th tier upgrades, specifically the Sun God, gave us ultimate goals to work towards. If you didn't have a screen full of Sun Gods by the end of a session, you were basically failing at life. It also brought us military monkeys like the Monkey Ace and Buccaneer, adding a level of variety that made the previous games look like tech demos. But of course, once you've taken such a big step forward, what do you have to do? Cash in on that sweet, sweet seasonal content. This is one of the rarest games in the entire franchise. Bloons Festive Fun. Released for a single month in December 2009, this was a Christmas-themed version of Bloons iOS that functioned like a digital advent calendar. Every day from December 1st to New Year's Eve, 3 new festive levels would unlock. Beating them earned you trophies that you could use to decorate a virtual Christmas tree. On January 1st, 2010, the game was pulled from the App Store and it never returned. For over a decade, this game was considered lost media, impossible to play unless you had an old iPod Touch with it still installed. Thankfully, it was preserved and uploaded to archive.org in 2023. It had all sorts of cute reskins like Holly Bloons instead of Tack Bloons and a candy cane balloon instead of a boomerang balloon. It was a fascinating, very early experiment in live service seasonal events for the series. But after finding success on mobile, Ninja Kiwi decided to try their hand at traditional console markets. It did not go well. Between 2009 and 2010, Bloons was ported to the PlayStation Network, the Nintendo Wii, and the Nintendo DSi. These were paid versions of the puzzle game, and they were, to put it mildly, an absolute disaster. The console versions were universally panned by critics. Nintendo Life gave the DSi and the Wii version scores as low as 2 out of 10. The main complaints were that the controls were horrible, trying to aim precise dart throws with a D-pad or a clumsy Wii remote pointer was basically a nightmare. The difficulty curve was also completely broken, and the level editor was almost unusable with a controller. This disastrous foray into the console market was a formative experience for Ninja Kiwi. It taught them that their games were best suited for PC and mobile, and they wisely stayed in their lane for years afterward. All of these versions are now long discontinued, a mercy killing for some truly, truly terrible ports. This is the one that got away. Alongside the announcements for the DSi and PSP ports, Ninja Kiwi also revealed that a version of Bloons was planned for the Xbox 360. While the other handheld versions were released and subsequently bombed, the Xbox 360 version was quietly cancelled and never spoken of again. This cancellation, paired with the dreadful reviews of the Wii and DSi ports, was the final nail in the coffin for the franchise's early console ambitions. It was a clear sign that Ninja Kiwi understood where their strengths were, on PC and mobile, and they wisely chose to cut their losses rather than release another poorly received console port. This decision probably saved them a lot of time, money, and negative press, allowing them to focus on what became the multi-million-dollar BTD series. But before we talk about our next BTD entry, we have to talk about Bloons Super Monkey, a top-down, vertically scrolling shoot-'em-up released in 2010. That's right, a shoot-'em-up. You control the Super Monkey, who auto-fires constantly, and you just move him around with your mouse to pop massive waves of balloons. It was basically a kid-friendly version of classic arcade shooters like Raiden. Popping balloons drops power blops, which are used as currency to buy a whole host of upgrades across 3 different weapon paths. This was the first game to star the Super Monkey community and the first to introduce the idea of distinct upgrade paths for a single character, a concept that would become a cornerstone of BTD 5 and BTD 6. This game even has a final boss fight against a massive BFB. It was a simple but incredibly addictive spin-off that proves that the Bloons IP could successfully branch out into other action genres. And I guess Bloons Super Monkey must have been successful because in 2010, for just 99 cents, it was released on iOS. This was the mobile port of the Flash shoot 'em up. They shifted the game's perspective from horizontal to vertical to better fit a phone screen, and they completely rebalanced the upgrades. Because the game now ran at a silky smooth 60 frames per second, double the rate of the Flash version, some upgrades became unintentionally overpowered. It's these little details that show how much care went into these early mobile adaptations. This port was a critical step in establishing Bloons as a household name on the App Store, but like the other early iOS games, it's now incompatible with modern devices. And then in 2010, they released the mobile version of Hot Air Bloon on iOS. They transformed the simple Flash game into a full-blown adventure. The game had a plot. It was a classic tale of a hero monkey trying to rescue his love, the princess monkey, from the clutches of an evil monkey baron. This is one of the first times we ever got named monkey characters and a real narrative in a Bloons game. It featured 28 stages across 7 unique worlds, complete with new enemies and epic boss battles like a giant wasp queen. What's wild is that this is the only game in the entire series where other monkeys are the primary antagonist, with the monkey baron sending his flying monkey minions to attack you. The game got mixed reviews and was delisted for years, becoming another piece of lost media before being preserved in 2023. It's weird, ambitious, and a totally unique entry in the Bloons saga. After more than 3 years and a billion plays of the original, Bloons 2 finally arrived in September of 2010. This was the true sequel the original Bloons deserved. It came with a massive graphic overhaul and 100 brand new levels across 8 zones. It kept the core dart throwing gameplay but added a ton of new mechanics and Bloon types to freshen things up. We got the Bee Bloon, which unleashed swarms of bees you can guide with your cursor, the Camo Bloon, which fades in and out of visibility, forcing you to time your shots perfectly, and most importantly, we got the Nested Bloon, the first Bloon in the puzzle series to require multiple hits, a concept taken directly from the tower defense games. The old Pac-Man and lightsaber Bloons were removed, probably because Disney and Namco's lawyers started making phone calls, but the new additions more than made up for it. And just like the first game, a successful sequel immediately meant it was time for more themed expansion packs. Following the success of Bloons 2, we got 2 seasonal expansions: the Bloons 2 Christmas Pack and Bloons 2 Spring Fling. Each one added 50 new levels built with the new engine and mechanics. These weren't lazy level packs either. They had themed backgrounds, new music, and creative reskins for a bunch of the Bloons. In the Christmas pack, the Boomerang Bloon became a candy cane and the Bomb Bloon was a golden ornament. The main monkey even wore a little Santa hat. For the Spring Fling pack, he wore bunny ears, the Tack Bloon became a Rose Bloon, and the Bomb Bloon was a painted Easter egg. Also continued the tradition of hiding secret levels in the main menu, rewarding curious players who clicked on things like the presents or Easter eggs. These packs were just a fun, simple way to keep the game feeling fresh with seasonal content. Next up is Bloons Blast, a game that was exclusively available on Facebook. It was Ninja Kiwi's first real dive into the social gaming boon of the late 2000s. It blended the puzzle gameplay of Bloons 2 with a score attack format. You had a time limit to beat levels, and doing well earned you coins and experience points. It had all the hallmarks of a Facebook game from that era. A live system where you had to wait for your monkeys to regenerate, an in-game shop to buy power-ups, and a daily dart lottery for free currency. It even had a combo system with a speed meter and a chain meter, and if you maxed them both out, you'd summon the sun god for a limited time. This game is basically lost to time now, but its DNA is all over the modern puzzle spin-off Bloons Pop. Yes, this was a real game. Who Wants to Be a Bloonionaire was a short-lived quiz game on the Ninja Kiwi website from 2011. It was a parody of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where you had to answer 10 multiple-choice questions about the Bloons universe. If you got all 10 right, you'd unlock the world premiere trailer for the highly anticipated Bloons TD 5 Flash. This thing was for hardcore fans only. The questions were ridiculously specific, asking about things like the exact red balloon equivalent of a rainbow balloon, or the cost of a tier 3 tower upgrade. You even had lifelines like a 50-50 and Ask the Monkeys. It was a bizarre, brilliant, and incredibly niche way to build hype for their next game. It's no longer playable on the official site, but you can still find it around. In December of 2011, Bloons 2 Mobile hit the App Store and the Android market. Now, this wasn't just a direct port of the Flash game, it was completely rebuilt for phones. It used many of the same balloon types, but it featured 108 levels spread across 9 planets. The control scheme was also different, using the more intuitive drag and release system from the first mobile game instead of the 2-click system from the Flash version. The game was also designed to be a little bit easier than its web counterpart to appeal to a more casual mobile audience. This release further solidified Ninja Kiwi's mobile-first strategy. Like its predecessor, this app is now delisted, another victim of the 32-bit apocalypse. Like I said earlier, there was a trailer for Bloons TD 5, and in 2011, it officially released. This game is widely considered the pinnacle of the 2D era, and it stayed relevant for nearly a decade. It introduced the ZOMG, a balloon so durable it made the Moab look like a joke. The upgrade system was tweaked to allow a tier 4 upgrade on one path and a tier 2 on the other, which added a layer of cross-pathing that we still use today. We also got activated abilities, giving us something to do besides just watching the screen. Round 63 became the ultimate test of skill, featuring waves of camo regrow ceramics that have probably caused more rage quits than any other level in history. It was the first game to feature co-op, which was great for realizing your friends are actually terrible at tower defense. Co-op is fine for making friends, but sometimes you just want to see them suffer in a fair fight. This spin-off took the BTD5 engine and turned it into a high-stakes PvP arena. In Bloons TD Battles, each player had to defend their own side while sending balloons to attack their opponent. It introduced the ecosystem where you spent money to send balloons, which in turn increased your income over time. It was a brilliant risk-reward mechanic that turned a cozy defense game into a stressful math problem. We also got the Cobra Tower, a unit that could directly sabotage the other player. If you ever lost to an all-out lead balloon rush on round 10, you know exactly how frustrating and beautiful this game could be. It's the closest thing to a monkey-themed esport we're ever gonna get. If competitive popping isn't your speed though, maybe real estate is more your style. Bloons Monkey City took the tower defense game and buried it inside a city building simulator. You had to capture territory by beating unique challenges to expand your town. It was a massive grind requiring you to build specific structures just to unlock tower upgrades, which was a bit of a headache. However, it also gave us the DDT, a fast lead camo black property blimp that is objectively the most terrifying thing in the franchise. It felt like a persistent world where your progress actually mattered, even if it meant waiting 12 hours for a building to finish so you could actually use a super monkey. It was a weird experiment that worked surprisingly well for the long-term player. This is Bloons Super Monkey 2 Mobile, and it was a glow-up. This wasn't a port, it was a complete remake of the original shooter from the ground up. It replaced the flat 2D graphics with full 3D models for the monkeys, the balloons, and the bosses. It was a massive game with 100 levels, a deep research lab for permanent upgrades, and even new playable characters like the Ice Monkey. It took the simple arcade loop of the original and wrapped it in a modern mobile progression system. You'd collect power-ups from crates, research new weapons, and fight massive 3D versions of boss balloons like the Dread Bloon and Bloonarius from Bloons Monkey City. It was the first Bloons game to use 3D graphics on mobile and represented a huge leap in production value for the franchise's spin-off titles. Bloons TD 6 is the current flagship and quite frankly the best game in the entire series by a mile. Released in 2018, it moved the franchise into full 3D, which allowed for line-of-sight obstacles that actually make map placement matter. Every tower now has 3 upgrade paths and insane 5th tier upgrades that can also solo entire rounds. The introduction of heroes who level up automatically and provide unique buffs changed the meta forever. We also got paragons, which are the ultimate fusions of towers designed to take down massive BADs. And I mean, listen, everybody knows this is the best Bloons game there is right now. But then we have the high-profile crossover that used the BTD6 engine, but it changed basically all the rules. Instead of traditional upgrade paths, you equipped characters like Finn and Jake with weapons and trinkets you found in loot orbs. It felt more like an RPG where gear mattered as much as placement. The absence of the tack shooter and bomb shooter was a borderline offensive choice for a Bloons game, but the official voice acting and Land of Ooh setting made it charming enough to forgive. It was a colorful, weird detour that showed Ninja Kiwi wasn't afraid to break their own formula and try something new. Released in 2021, Bloons Pop is the modern evolution of the classic puzzle formula. This game combines the original dart throwing mechanic with the towers and heroes of Bloons TD 6. Instead of just throwing generic darts, you're launching monkeys, each with their own unique abilities. You can even merge two of the same monkey to create a powerful mega monkey for a massive screen clearing attack. The goal is to clear levels with a limited number of moves, and completing them earns you resources to rebuild and customize Monkey Town. It's a free-to-play game designed for a broad, casual audience with a live system and in-app purchases. It's a fun, clever fusion of the franchise's two biggest pillars, the classic puzzle gameplay and the modern BTD aesthetic. Bloons TD Battles 2 takes everything from BTD 6 and shoves it into a competitive PvP format. It features the 3D graphics, heroes, and all three upgrade paths from the main game. The launch was a bit of a disaster due to a slow progression system that felt like a second job, but Ninja Kiwi has since fixed the economy to make it actually playable. The meta is fast and aggressive, focusing on outplaying your opponent before the rounds get too chaotic. It even has hero alts, which are cosmetics and mechanical variants that give you more ways to customize your strategy. It's the most polished competitive tower defense game out there. Released in October of 2024, we have Bloons Card Storm. This is a head-to-head PvP game where you build a deck of 40 cards to battle another player. The goal is to use your monkey cards to build the defense, while playing Bloons cards to attack your opponent and drain their lives. It's a surprisingly complex game with its own resource system called Bloontonium and hero characters from BTD 6 like Quincy and Gwendolyn, each with unique abilities. It's a massive departure from anything they've done before, taking the iconic characters and mechanics of Bloons and translating them into a competitive turn-based card game. From my understanding, I don't think the game is doing too well, but it's proof that Ninja Kiwi is still willing to take big risks with its flagship franchise. And there you have it, every single Bloons game explained. Thank you for watching, and subscribe.